feel like you've lost your way? Are you overwhelmed and anxious on a daily basis? Do you feel like you're too stressed out to enjoy life? If so, you've landed in the right place. The Gratitude to Bliss show is about stressing less and feeling blessed. It's about figuring out what matters most, letting go of what doesn't, and creating a life that makes you feel happy and alive. I'm Lorraine Miller, mom, health coach, award-winning author, infertility survivor, and recovering stressaholic. And I'm on a mission to help you overcome overwhelm, improve your health, and find your bliss. The best part? It's so easy to get started. The Gratitude to Bliss show starts now. Hello and welcome to the Gratitude to Bliss show, the place to be to get your vitamin G. I'm Lorraine Miller, your host, and today's episode is a very special one. I'm calling it my first Momcast, and I will be doing more of these interviews where I talk to other moms about gratitude and how it can be so helpful in navigating this sacred journey through motherhood. My guest today is a homeschool mom like me. She is a soulful expansion breathwork coach, and she's also known as as Ali the Activator. So, welcome, Ali Levine. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I love what you're doing with gratitude, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too. I'm so happy to have you here. So, tell us about the work you do as a soulful expansion and breathwork coach. And I want to hear more about Ali, the activator.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a certified breathwork coach, first and foremost. I help people, especially moms, learn how to not only regulate their nervous system, but take them out of the fight or flight, which is where most moms live because we do have so many things going on in our daily lives. And I love how you bring it to the sacred of motherhood. I feel the same way. It's not only moving you from being regulated, but it's finding this place where we go back to homeostasis. We go back to the way actually our children are breathing when they're first born, which is into the belly, into the chest, and out, and come back to our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the homeostasis. I like to say, come home to yourself through the breath. And so I help my moms and my clients while using breath work, as well as different prayer, gratitude practices, different types of mirror work, journaling, as well as what I like to call acceleration, reactivation, subconscious rewire, where we're literally changing the thoughts and rewiring the neuro patterns in our brain, the neuroreceptors, because what happens when we breathe deeply and consciously, which is what breath work is. A lot of people will say, what is breath work? And it's at the core of it, it's just understanding that we're consciously breathing. We're choosing to bring more oxygen into the body and allowing that to shut off the neuroreceptors in the back of our brain. And what happens when that happens is that we can actually get into the subconscious. We can start to rewire what's actually going on and give ourselves new thoughts and new beliefs and remove the junk and the noise and the programs that we probably picked up from family, from ancestors, from society, and whatever else. And, that's really the core of my work is helping people not only regulate so they can be the realness of them and the authenticity of them, but so they can be rewired into the most successful, thriving version of them, mind, body, and spirit. And I take you from being in survival mode into actual thriving. And when the Ali the Activator came from is just activating you into like your full potential. Many people have told me that I have activated something in them, and I feel that's such a gift, and I don't take it lightly. And I do feel that when people are doing breath work with me and they're learning the different practices of how to heal mind, body, and spirit, and finding deeper faith in themselves as well as in the creator and God, they are able to start to access these tools that are all within us and start to shift from those lower states of consciousness to actual higher states, which is the way we are divinely created.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you.
That's really powerful. And I know being a mom and being somebody who is very prone to stressing easily, that this work is so important. And it's so frustrating to not know how to regulate when you're under stress. So
It is.
I applaud you for the work you're doing. I think it's so needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think especially for moms, right? We're doing so much. We're showing up so much for our partner, for our child, for our children. I'm a mom of three, and life keeps happening, right? There's still things that continue to happen. Life doesn't just stop. It actually gets more intense and rapidly things are changing by the moment. And for me, it just being able to come back to my breath, knowing this is something within me that is a divine tool. We take 22 to 23,000 breaths a day. I want everybody to hear that. That's a lot of breaths to be taking. And we're just taking them shallow. We're just quickly surviving and just breathing. But what if you started actually and really letting the oxygen come into the body and filling the lungs and filling your cells, your mitochondria, your nervous system, everything, your lungs, filling it up, letting the whole body be rapidly re-energized and rewired. And you do that as a consistent practice, I promise you, life changes. It starts to change you. And if something is changing you, well, then you're going to be transformed. And that's what my, huge passion is and what I do for my work.
Awesome. I love that. So please share your story around gratitude and how you started focusing on gratitude and how it became such a big part of your journey and also how you bring it to motherhood.
Yeah, I love that question. So, for those that don't know my story, I've shared it quite a bit online, but I'm happy to share here with your community. I had my first daughter in 2018. And before I was in this space, I was a celebrity wardrobe stylist in Hollywood. So I lived a very different life. And I think that's important to mention because of my own transformation, all I've gone through. I used to live a very high stress life, high cortisols, not taking any conscious breaths. I probably didn't breathe at all, to be quite honest. I was always high strung, had a lot of toxicity around me, and a lot of high profile clients that I was working with all the time. And so my nervous system was very much in, a state of fight or flight all the time. And I didn't know that nor recognize that. And when I got pregnant with my first daughter, it started becoming very apparent that my nervous system was feeling very in fight or flight and almost in like a functional freeze because it can be in fight or flight where it's reactionary and triggered. It can also go into a functional freeze or just a full-blown freeze, and I feel like I was teetering probably between the two. And so fast forward from getting pregnant, everything went on with me was like I was just struggling. I was feeling like I couldn't show up anymore at work. I was just feeling so off. And I was because I was having to, of course, take care of this baby that was growing within me, but I also wasn't taking care of myself. And it was starting to come up to the surface because I hadn't been taking care of myself for a long time. And now, because I'm now growing this new life, it's becoming very apparent that, there's a lot I need to take care of, especially when it comes to my nervous system. And our body holds everything, by the way. So if you think you've compartmentalized it, you haven't. Your body's just holding it and waiting to express it. And that is exactly what happened for me. I wanted to have a natural birth with my first daughter in 2018. I wound up after 42 hours in a C-section. I was transferred to the hospital, and it was a very intense and traumatic time for me to especially go from being this natural state and feeling like, I was going to have this birth that was my dream birth, and I think we all as mothers have birth plans, and I was so stubbornly holding on to mine so deep, and it just all went out the window. And I really struggled with that. I really struggled with that my birth plan changed. I struggled that I also was transferred, and I went from being in a natural state where I'm a much more holistic person to feeling very disconnected from my body between the Pitocin and that epidural and all the things they were doing to try to get her to come through. And nothing was a success when it came to what they were doing with medical interventions, and I wound up in the C-section at 42 hours. And I believe now, as a expert in this space and understanding how the body works, I believe that my body, when I had her, started to express all the trauma that not only I went through from that birth, but everything I've been holding for years, grieving I hadn't done for my grandmother when she passed in 2013, things that I had from people pleasing for clients for many years. No, the list goes on. We all hold trauma in our body. We all go through traumatic situations. And most of us don't deal with them the way we're actually, meant to deal with them. And I certainly didn't. And so that created me into a heavy, everyone said baby blues at first, but I knew it was deeper because I just felt immediate such heaviness. I know I discussed with you before we came on of just the heaviness I went through during that time. And I was diagnosed with severe postpartum depression and anxiety. I even had a little bit of rage on top of it. And where gratitude came into my life was I started working with a postpartum therapist who said, what do you want to do here? You can get on medicine, and start, working on, just feeling better from that space and getting on something, or do you want to do something else? And I just felt pulled in my soul that I just didn't want to get on medication. I wanted to heal on a much deeper level. And so that meant meditation practices, that meant gratitude practices. And I remember when she told me to write down, in my journal about what am I grateful for? And I looked at her and I was like, I'm not grateful for anything right now. And she's like, I get that. But besides what you're feeling right now, besides what you're experiencing, what are you grateful for? Your brand new baby, like, you're in a new home, I had all these new things going on. She's like, I want you to write the things down that actually resonate. And so I did every day, begrudgingly, by the way. I started writing down, 3 to 5 things I was grateful for. And somewhere along the way, as I was meditating on these different things I was grateful for, I started noticing I'd hear the birds chirping. I started feeling a little bit better to get up and actually get dressed that day. I would start to go on a walk and not be feeling so sorry for myself. And just these little shifts just started happening that I didn't expect. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I am grateful, even though I'm in such a hard season. I am grateful for a lot of things. And I believe that gratitude and then that bringing me also to like praising just my life and really praying on what I was going through started to shift everything that was going on in my life. And so I think gratitude, my son, I think gratitude is so important in motherhood because we are always going through chaos, right? We're always going through different situations with our kids. And if we can have gratitude and show up in that space, it doesn't change what we're going through, but it changes how we look at the situation. It changes the perspective that we have. And I feel like that's really kind of the magic shift, if you will. It's like we're not changing what's actually happening. We're just showing up in a completely different place so that we can still allow miracles to come in. We can still allow, that divine guidance and that true knowing of like, okay, things are going to be better on the other side instead of getting into victim mode, which is where I was in the beginning before I was properly diagnosed, which was shaming myself consistently in the mirror of my body and why my body didn't work, shaming how I looked and how I didn't look beautiful anymore. I mean, I tore myself apart. And by the way, talking about the body expressing, I started having cystic acne. My body started inflaming way later after I was supposed to be healing in my journey, and nobody could understand why that was
Mm-hmm.
happening. And it wasn't until I started doing these practices and then breath work where actually all of that went away. And it showed me how, important it is for us to be speaking life into our body, for our mind, body, spirit to be aligned, and for our body to really receive, the positivity that we need because our cells are always listening and our body is always absorbing and compartmentalizing if we're not dealing with it.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's quite a journey you've been on and quite an experience giving birth. I myself can relate to that birth experience. Mine was very similar.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a water birth
Oh,
for
yeah.
my son, and I ended up after 36 hours of labor getting a C-section and then having all kinds of complications after and trouble breastfeeding and
Oh, yes. Trouble
just
breastfeeding. The baby doesn't latch. I had that for months. Yeah. Overproducing. I was producing for like 2 babies. Yeah. It's, it's quite the
and
journey.
and there's so many moms out there with that same story
Yeah.
and or something similar. And just a shout out to all those moms that have been through it. And it's not something that you're ever prepared for
Not at all. Nobody
because
says it's
nobody
going to be
tells you
great.
that. They don't want to scare you
Not even
when
just
you're
scare you, but
pregnant,
nobody
especially with your
prepares you.
first. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree with you, Lorraine. It's like, not only do they not tell you because they don't want to scare you, but then you're not prepared at all. You're not told, like, hey, by the way, you're going to meet this new beautiful baby. Everybody talks about that, but nobody says like you're going to potentially meet a brand new version of you, or you're going to go through something that's a true, I believe now, a spiritual metamorphosis that happens, when you give birth, because there is such a divine, connection, and it's beautiful, but there's so much that falls apart to shift and change. And there's so much of ourselves we have to let go of, and I think it's important to have that conversation. And by the way, for, any moms listening, in 2020, I had a VBAC with my second daughter. And, I would have never thought that would have happened. But because I was aligned in mind, body, and spirit, because I was in faith and not fear, and I trusted my body, and I was doing my gratitude practices and my affirmations and continuously working on my body and doing breath work every day to get conscious in my body, I believe that that's what led to that successful VBAC, and I just want to let any mom know, because I know a lot of moms have C-sections and they're like, oh, I really want to go for a VBAC. Like, you absolutely can. And if you feel it in your heart, you should, because I never would have thought I would have had that redemptive birth. And I did. And then I had my son in 2022 and he was a home birth. So, you never know what can happen when you trust yourself and believe in yourself, and, you believe in that connection that you have, mind, body, and spirit.
And it's so important to keep gratitude into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really love how you've done that, and you've kept your faith through, two more pregnancies. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking about how your journey led you to this beautiful place of helping other people. And I think when we really master the art of gratitude, we can look back at things that have happened to us and they may have been horrible, but we can find gratitude in them. So, have you experienced a level of gratitude in the journey itself?
Yeah, such a good question. Yeah, I have this conversation with a lot of my clients, and I've definitely journaled on this and done this reflective work myself. I think about that moment, that C-section, that trauma I went through, and how upset I was to go through it. But at the same time, now I look at that and I say, wow, what a blessing. Because at the time, I turned to my husband and I said, I feel like I'm mourning the death of myself. But I actually
Mhm.
was. But what you spoke to, Lorraine, was like, how we just completely lose ourselves and we don't know or expect things to happen in our births and all these changes that happen. But the beauty of that was that there was a shedding essentially of the ego of Ali, this like ego death that had to happen from the celebrity styling career to bring me into actually becoming present in my life and not being on the hamster wheel and the auto grind, and being present for my husband and being present for my children, and also being present in my own life and having gratitude for all that I was doing. I never had gratitude when I was in my styling career. I shouldn't say never, but I was not checking in the way I do now. Like I would check off the boxes in Hollywood of like, dressed this person and got to be at this event, and I never felt fulfilled. And I felt like, why am I checking off every box, but like nothing is fulfilling? And it was because there was no gratitude behind it. It was just this autopilot of check off the box, do this, and keep going. And the blessing of what I went through was not only that I had to really sit in my stuff and sit in my, what, but I had to do the work to start to heal within. And it made me realize that I hadn't grieved my grandmother passing in 2013, that I had gone right into work and pretended like it wasn't happening and numb myself out. And I think a lot of us do things like that, where something comes up and there's no shame or judgment around it. It's just what we do as society. But instead of processing it, we just go into the next thing. And we think that we compartmentalize and put it away. But no, it's there, it's sitting, it's waiting to be expressed. And that was when the part of my journey was I started learning like, wow, there's so much my body has been holding for so many years to not only find safety, but to be able to express all these emotions I've been holding, and it's been trapped inside of my body. And now it's time for me to actually see it and heal it. So I actually think there's a lot of different places where I have gratitude when it comes to that. I also have gratitude that it brought me to being even stronger to be able to have that VBAC with my second daughter, that I was able to learn the tools, find supportive communities and women that poured into me to help me get to that space of having a VBAC. I'll tell a quick story with the VBAC, but Arlie, my second daughter, got stuck very similarly the way Amelia did. And it showed me in that moment, wow, the body really does keep score. The body really does
Mhm.
hold and remember the memory from the 2018 birth. And she was holding the same way. And I was so grateful in that moment. I remember for having gratitude, speaking of this, and saying to myself, okay, I know what my body's doing. I have awareness. Okay, thank God I have awareness. And I looked at my husband and I said, I need everybody out of the room. I need to be alone just with you. And I got into like deep prayer and gratitude. And I started doing my breathwork exercises. I put a meditation playlist in my ear and I just got centered. And as I did, I just started breathing so deeply. And within that time, I felt like I was in honestly a heavenly realm. I just felt so supported and held, and I was no longer in my body. And I was in this other wild experience. It's very hard to articulate, but it was really magical and beautiful. And as that happened, I just heard God say to me, just breathe, just breathe. And so I just took another deep breath. And as I did, I felt like I came back into my body, back into the room and the experience. Everybody was back in the room. And my doctor was like, push. And there she was on my chest, 9 pounds, 3 ounces of her. And it was like, oh, I still get, I call them God bones. I still get chills because it was so transformative. And not only just this redemption, but this true transformation that happened in that moment. And I had so much gratitude that I was able to get there because had I been in the same victim state of where I used to live, that maybe not wouldn't have been the case. Right. And so I think I have consistent reflection when it comes to gratitude in my journey.
That's so beautiful. And again, I can really relate to that. When I was in labor and not knowing what was happening, I kept relying on my gratitude practice. I
Mm,
I kept thinking of everything I was grateful for. I connected to my mom who had passed away and was praying to her, and I just wanted a healthy baby. And you know what? I went through all that, but I ended up with a healthy baby, and that's really what, yes, I wanted the water birth.
of
Yes, I
course.
wanted all those things. But at the end of the day, you get what you get. And if you can have gratitude for something, um, it's
It
it
is. It
helps.
changes
It
everything. It
helps so
helps.
much.
Yeah. I tell my
It-
kids all the time, I'm like, attitude of gratitude. There's no attitudes in this house. The only attitude we have is an attitude of gratitude. And I'm like, you get what you get and you're grateful for it. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
and I think when you teach your children that, even on a very like small level, like I teach them when they breathe, I'm like, what are we breathing in gratitude for right now? We're breathing. We got to take another breath today. We're breathing, that the sun is outside and we're enjoying the sunshine. We're breathing that we slept well last night. Like simple things. I think when you start to really break it down, you're right. It's like it really starts to shift and change the way you show up. And when you make it a consistent practice, well, it changes your whole life.
Exactly. Consistency is so important. And your kids are young. They're 2, 4, and 6,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My son's 11. I've been sharing gratitude with him, obviously, since he was born. But
Yeah.
when he was around 3, we started talking at dinner time about what we were grateful for. And I am just so grateful that I've done that because now
I
he's
love that.
11. And, sometimes he doesn't really want to say what he's grateful for,
Of
but
course. Do we? That all the time? No.
no, but things come up, and I'm like, oh wow, he really gets it. He really gets it. And there's so many people like yourself, um, other guests that I've had on the show who have had these transformations from gratitude who initially didn't feel grateful.
No, not at all. I
And
begrudgingly wrote down what I was grateful for in my journal every day for months, by the way.
yeah, so the message for you and I to send out today really is give it a try because there's so much available to us, but we have to actually tap into it.
Hmm.
We have to tap into that energy.
Yeah, we do.
Otherwise we stay stuck.
Absolutely. And, I think, I tell this to all my clients, our emotions are energy in motion. When we start to understand that, everything is energy moving within us, we are souls at the end of the day, right? And so when we understand everything is energy and you're saying tap into that, it's like, yes, are you tapping into the highest frequency? Are you tapping in, like I tell my clients, into heaven's portal? Or are you tapping into something else? Because if you think about it that way, it's like, yeah, I want to tap into the highest frequency. I want to be at the highest octave, even if I'm not feeling that way all the time, because it does. It starts to shift things, and you start to have more gratefulness in your heart, and you become more heart centered and get out of the mind. And I teach people with breath work, like how to breathe deeper into that gratitude and then to rewire in that gratitude and to change the thoughts and the beliefs. And exactly the consistency of it changes how you show up. It really does. It changes you.
It really does. I like to think of it as preventative medicine.
I love
It,
that.
it can
Yeah.
it can protect us from so many things: sadness, spiraling down, illness, relationship troubles, just so many things. It's just such a wonderful gift. So I love this conversation. We're going to end soon, but I want to take a moment to do the wheel of gratitude. So, Emily, if you could spin the wheel for us and let us know what it lands on.
Okay, today the wheel landed on sleep.
Sleep, such an important one for moms, right? Because we don't always get enough sleep. But if you can take a moment to appreciate whatever amount of sleep you're getting these days and really feel gratitude for it, really make it something that you appreciate because it is so nourishing and it is so important. So just really feel in your heart some gratitude for sleep, even if it's watching your child sleep, some rest, some snuggles, and allow that feeling of appreciation, that positivity around sleep to just fill you up and energize you and nourish you. So, Allie,
That was
tell
beautiful.
us, yeah, tell us about the gifts that you offer. Tell us how people can get in touch with you if they want to connect with you around your coaching. I know you have an app and you have a free guide. So, how can people access all of those things?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. This conversation, speaking of gratitude, lit me up. So thank you. And thank you all for listening.
Awesome. Oh, my
Uh,
pleasure.
so you can find me at Ali Levine Design is where all my socials are. ALILEVINE Design, DESIGN. And I hang mostly between Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, but I'm on all the platforms. So feel free to follow me and find me. My guide, which is a PDF guide, it's about 15 pages long. It takes you through a whole mini journey with me of breath work, of gratitude, journal prompts, all that good stuff, and a little bit of rewiring. You can find that from, I know it's going to be here in the show notes, but I'll just let you guys know it's alilevine.myflowdesk.com/gift. So just my name, ALILEVINE dot my flow, FLODESK.com, and then the word gift/gift. And you can also DM me if you don't remember this. Just DM me and say guide, and I will send it to you happily. It's a free gift from me. I love it if you would join me in my free Facebook community that is Christ-centered women support, inspiration, prayers, and more. Join and I'll add you right away. It's a great way to get in my community and get into this type of space. My website's alilevine.com. And yeah, my app, Breathe and Be, BREATHE, and the letter B. You can download it on the App Store and get coaching with me in the app, as well as breathwork coaching offerings, exercises. I drop in new exercises every month. And then I also have group containers and one-on-one support. So if that sounds like a fit for you, book a call with me. That's in my profile, and you can join with me and we can chat about how I can help you move more into these higher states and reduce your stress and what's going on in your life.
Awesome. Allie, thank you for being such an incredible role model as a mom and moving through struggles with gratitude and for all the great offerings that you put out there for everyone and especially for moms. So thank you for all of that. And thank you for being my guest today. This is the Gratitude to Bliss Show, the place to be to get your vitamin G. I'm Lorraine Miller, your host. And I just want to remind you to check out episode 1 of the show if you haven't already, because in that episode, I walk you through a very simple but powerful gratitude practice I call vitamin G. I give you tips for staying with it and being consistent and for getting the most out of gratitude. And please visit my website, gratitudetobliss.com. Enter your email address to gain access to a free guided meditation, Nourishing Gratitude, so you can connect with the feeling of gratitude and really put yourself in that energy and that vibration. This guided meditation will help you practice doing that, getting into that feeling, which I call the special sauce to practicing gratitude. It's so amazing to be doing this very first Momcast. Thank you, Ali, for being here. And everyone, remember, I love you. Take your vitamin G. Thank you for tuning in to the Gratitude to Bliss Show, the place to be to get your vitamin G. I'm Lorraine Miller, your host, and I want to remind you to check out episode 1 and create your own powerful vitamin G practice and let gratitude work magic in your life. To help you add that special sauce, download your free guided meditation, Nourishing Gratitude, at gratitudetobliss.com. Do you have a gratitude story to tell? Has gratitude helped you overcome a challenge in your life? Or are you going through a rough time and need some extra support? Go to gratitudetobliss.com/contact and send us your story to be a featured guest on the show so you can inspire others with your story or get inspired to break through whatever you are struggling with. Remember, I love you. Take your vitamin G. One thing I know for sure is that life is a blessing. We aren't meant to feel stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious on a daily basis. We are meant to feel calm, healthy, and strong mentally, physically, and emotionally. If you've been struggling with stress, if you want to boost your mood, increase your energy, balance hormones, and create greater mental clarity and focus, if you want to lose excess weight and keep it off, I invite you to check out Calm, Healthy, and Fit, my 3-month group coaching program that is all about you and making yourself a priority. We are going to set achievable goals, create healthy habits around food and lifestyle, and support each other in a group setting. Join us and visit gratitudetobliss.com/group coaching to learn more.